For a long time, I avoided saying where I live. For years, I thought it would hurt my credibility or limit my audience. I thought that living in Greece made me less relatable, like I had to hide it or downplay it and just focus on my work and interests. I told myself that would help me connect better with people. But recently I realized something. I started seeing this country not as a disadvantage, but as an advantage. This place, the quiet mornings, the slow pace, the food, the light, it could actually be part of my voice. It's just what makes my story different. And that's what YouTube rewards, being different. The more I embrace where I live, the more I stand out. Now, during my morning walks, I think less about hiding and more about showing. Showing what life is really like here. Showing the real me. I didn't always see it that way, especially when it came time to show how I live or what I do day to day as a work from home dad who isn't even fluent in English.
Tomorrow we are leaving for Skiros Island and I've just dropped off my daughter to one of her friends so that I can go back at home and go back at work while I can before we pack the bags for tomorrow's trip. Και δεν ξέρω κατά πόσο θα προλάβω γενικά να τα κάνω όλα αυτά και έχω σκοπό να πάρω και αρκετά πράγματα και επειδή είναι με το αεροπλάνο δεν ξέρω και κατά πόσο θα μπορέσω να τα πάρω όλα αυτά που θα ήθελα να πάρω. Παρ' όλα αυτά είμαι αισιόδοξος και πιστεύω ότι θα βγει καλό αυτό το ταξίδι, αυτή η εκδρομή. Ελπίζω μόνο να μην τον καντέμιασα μόλις τώρα.
I have always hated packing, too many decisions, what to take, what to leave behind. As someone documenting his work from home life on YouTube, every single item could end up being the one I regret not bringing. Well, to be honest, my mind wasn't even on the road as I drove back home. I was thinking about plane tickets, travel documents, the weight of the luggage, clothes, the weather. Would it be cold or warm? Would I need different shoes? Should I pack formal clothes too? Which jacket should I take? Would 2 jackets even fit? If I went out for both morning and afternoon walks, I would need extra outfits. These were decisions I would have to live with for the next 10 days on the island. But clothes weren't the biggest issue. The most important thing was work. I couldn't afford to forget anything essential for working from the island. And on top of all that, this trip had an extra layer of stress. I really wanted to bring the FX6 camera. It just makes filming so much easier. But by the time I got home, a creator advice video made me forget all about it.
Maybe you are just a natural on camera and it's always been easy for you. Maybe it's because how you do something is so different than everybody else in your industry. It could be something as simple as where you live. There is a dog trainer on YouTube who is amazing. And the biggest reason I like watching him is because of where he lives. Beautiful scenery in the UK somewhere, and I can't get enough of it. And your unfair advantage could be something that you were once ashamed of, and you realize, well, maybe it actually helps me stand out. I used to be super embarrassed that I recorded my videos in my laundry room, but now I make sure my washer and dryer is in all of my shots. You just have to own it sometimes, but that's going to help you become more memorable and relatable. Another way to niche down with your unfair advantage is to let your audience know why you have this channel in the first place and what keeps you going. Just like you, I have the thoughts in my head that I'm too old to do this, that I'm boring, that I have nothing to say. Those thoughts will always bubble up, but when you have a really clear picture and reason for why you're doing this channel, you're going to keep going. And that is what you need to be sharing with people.
Your unfair advantage might be the thing you were once ashamed of. That hit home. For the longest time, I thought I had to hide certain parts of my life, where I live, how I work, who I really am. But the truth is, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty, with authenticity, with others who are facing the same struggles, with people who are trying, just like they are. For me, packing never gets easier, and on this trip, I wouldn't have the car with me to throw in every last piece of filmmaking gear. Flying means I have to be as efficient as possible. When we travel by car, I take a ton of stuff I end up not using. But when flying, I need to make sure that anything I put in my bag will actually be useful. Our suitcase would only fit my wife's and my clothes. Since it was early spring, the weather was still cold, which meant bulky clothes that take up more space. We were allowed 3 carry-ons. One of them would hold our daughter's clothes. That left just 2 bags for the absolute essentials for documenting this trip. I took my 3 mirrorless cameras, each with its own lens, 2 for video and 1 mainly for photography, though it could back up video work too. Of course, I also packed my drone, an action camera, and a 360 camera. But in filmmaking, and especially working from home, the gear doesn't stop there. Batteries, chargers, cables, hard drives, power adapters. These are things I don't think about much when I'm at home. But the moment I start packing, I realize how many little things are absolutely necessary to get the work done. And just when I thought I was getting everything sorted, I remembered. It's not just my work gear I have to worry about. My wife's phone, my daughter's tablet, even my watch. They all need their own chargers and cables. And guess who handles all that? Me. It all has to pass through my hands and somehow fit into my bags. The more the bags filled up, the more I had to confront a hard truth. I probably wouldn't be able to bring my beloved FX6.
Φωνή να σκεφτείς σε μια φίλη της το πρωί και τίποτα δεν έχουμε κάνει.
I tried to fit the FX6 into the bag. I was even willing to leave other things behind if it meant I could take it with me. It would make filming so much easier. If I managed to bring the FX6, I would also bring my heavy-duty tripod. It would be so much more useful than the smaller one I usually take. Heavier? Yes, but it could cut my filming time in half with easier height and angle adjustments. Plus, we wouldn't be moving around that much. It would mostly stay at home, and we were allowed another suitcase anyway, so it wouldn't cost extra to fly with it. But bringing the tripod only made sense if I also brought the cinema camera with me. And the problem was, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't fit it in the bag without taking it apart. Sure, I could break it down into 2 or 3 pieces and reassemble it when we arrived on the island. But the more I tried to squeeze it in, the more I remembered what else I would have to bring with it. Another bulky charger, a second battery, more accessories. And on top of all that, I had a ticking clock. I needed to make a decision fast. So what was I going to do? Would I leave other cameras behind to bring this one? Would it even be worth dragging the big tripod around? Would anyone watching the final video even notice the difference? Or was it all in my head? just get the job done. And right around then, drowning in indecision and the chaos at home, I knew I needed to get out for a breather. Things were hectic at home. Cleaning, organizing, shutting the house down for a few weeks. I couldn't really help with much, so I slipped out for a short afternoon walk. It was going to be my last walk before we left, and even though it was quick, I needed it. Because the overwhelm still sitting heavy on my shoulders.
Ήρθα για βόλτα γιατί στο σπίτι έχουμε καθάρισμα καθώς κλείνει το σπίτι και επειδή δεν μπορώ να κάνω και πολλά πράγματα, ήρθα λίγο να κάνω τελευταία μου απογευματινή βόλτα πριν φύγουμε.
Even when you are getting ready for a relaxing trip, it doesn't always feel like you are escaping. Sometimes it feels like you are just taking your stress with you. But the stress didn't hit its peak until you got in the car.
Πέφτει στα φρένα.
Τα έλεγες ότι ήρες.
Ερχόνται στο πίσω, όχι πώς το λέγεται.
Το ρίχνεις στα αυτιά και πέφτεις στα φρένα.
Είναι σε αυτά που μένουν.
Το γιαούρτι να ξεχάνει, μην ξεχάσεις.
Αυτά που μένουν.
My dad drove us to the airport. I tried to stay calm as much as I could. For most people, traveling brings excitement. For me, it brings anxiety. Too many variables, too many things out of my control. I wrestled with my thoughts, wondering what I might have forgotten, what could go wrong, whether I made the right decisions over the past few days.
Είχε πάρα...
Ναι, λέγε.
Μπορώ να μιλήσω.
Βέβαια, ελεύθερα. Στά στο σπίτι σου.
But strangely enough, at the moment I arrive at the airport, a weight lifts off my shoulders. Maybe because now there's no turning back. What's done is done. Now it's time to enjoy the experience.
Μόλις κάναμε check-in και έχουμε τώρα μια ώρα μέχρι την πτήση.
Άμστερνταμ.
Όχι, Σκύρο.
With all the stress of preparing for the trip, I had forgotten to update my calorie tracking app. I've been logging everything I eat for 900 consecutive days. I wasn't about to let the trip ruin my streak. While we waited for the flight, I kept thinking about that video I watched earlier. Maybe I really do have an advantage living in this country compared to other creators. I remembered that in gatherings with other parents, I'm the only one doing YouTube.
Your attention please. For security reasons, please do not leave your luggage behind the door.
When the group includes 3 lawyers, 2 accountants, 3 teachers and 4 engineers, there's only one YouTuber. And even if there was another one, I would still be the one doing YouTube from Greece in English. That has to make me stand out, I thought myself, as I paced around the airport terminal. Our flight ended up being delayed, so I had more time to dwell on these thoughts. Thoughts about being a work-from-home dad who decided to build his personal brand after 45. And now, at this stage of my life, I finally understand how important branding is when I see the signs of marketing everywhere, even on the clothes my daughter wears or on strangers around me. And while I was thinking all this, it was finally time to board.
Boarding completed.
Χαίρετε.
If flew the livest immediately before the aircraft. Due to limited flight time, please make sure you will fasten the lavatory to be out of use. Thank you for understanding.
The flight was almost empty. And how could it not be when you pay 100 euros per person for a half-hour flight? Still, once again, I had time. Time to think about what I'm doing in life and whether it all makes sense. That's when I realized I don't just make videos, I document my life. And living in Greece, that's part of it. I used to feel awkward showing too much of my Greekness. I thought it made my content less relatable. Now I see that it's actually my unfair advantage. This country, the pace of life, the light, the warmth, this is what makes my story different. And soon we'll land where I feel most at peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Skiros Airport. Please keep your seatbelt fastened and be switched off. On behalf of the Commander and crew, Lieutenant Cloud Sky Express, member of IATA, wish you a pleasant afternoon. Goodbye and enjoy your stay.
As soon as we landed in Skiros, I made sure our suitcase arrived too before we hopped in a taxi. The drive from the airport would take about 20 minutes. 20 minutes where I could finally breathe without stress, without pressure. The trip was slowly coming to an end, and I now had 10 days ahead to enjoy this peaceful, beautiful Greek island. I was already feeling so good just being in this favorite place of mine. It's no wonder the keywords Greek islands is so popular in online searches. A few years ago, I didn't get it. Even when I came here, I didn't feel anything special. But maybe things changed. Maybe I got older. Maybe I changed. Now I can't wait to be here, to enjoy the view, to breathe clean air, to feel this calm. Maybe it's the connection to nature. Go touch some grass, they say. In my 20s, I clearly had zero interest. But the older I get, the more connected I feel to nature. Maybe it's what I'm missing in the city. Maybe that's why I walk so much, just to be close to nature, even in a noisy and crowded city. But here, it's different. Even unpacking feels nicer. Definitely not stressful. Usually I turn the dining table into workspace, the command center for my little empire. That's where I'll manage my websites, edit videos, upload photos. So I make sure everything is in place early on, so I'm ready to work when the creative juice starts flowing. And on an island like this, that moment happens more often than you'd expect. But of course on day one the fridge is empty, so we had to do our first grocery run. Like I've said in a previous video, spring is the best time to visit the Greek islands. Plenty of nature, barely any people. Of course that might just be this particular island. And I definitely don't want to turn these videos into travel promotions. Locals here often share what I post like I'm advertising the place, which makes sense since it's their home. But that was never my intention. I'm not intending to become a travel vlogger. I don't even travel that much. I just want to document. And as they say, when the king's tree is watered, the potted plant next to it gets watered too. This year, for the first time, a new supermarket opened nearby. So that's where we did our first shopping. Everything was back in order. I was back on schedule, back in my routine. As I sat on the porch with a caprice in hand, I thought about how I used to feel, how I didn't want to share these moments publicly, how I didn't want people to say, "Oh, that's Jim Makos, the guy who goes to a Greek island who lives in Greece." I didn't want to be associated with this country. Actually, I didn't want to be associated with any country. Digital nomad. Global citizen. It didn't matter where I was from or where I lived. I wasn't selling a dream. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. But in the end, maybe I don't have to impress anyone. Maybe I don't have to sell anything. I just want to express myself through documentation. And this documentation doesn't happen in a vacuum. This country isn't just the background. It's a co-star. It's a main character in the story where I am the protagonist. And that's the story I want to tell.